Welcome to a Cicero Talk. Once upon a time, there was a young man who wanted to go to university. He was just an ordinary young man from an ordinary small town. His parents were very proud of him because he'd always been very good at school, and he'd actually be the first one of their family ever to go to university at all. So one day he left for the big city, and he was very ambitious. He wanted to become a lawyer and maybe one day go and try to make a career for himself in politics. But once he got to the university, he noticed that times were changing. Times were changing fast. It was the early 60s, and there was a war on. Had been for some years. And, well, his fellow students, they just didn't bother with studying anymore or bother about diplomas, because the future for them, for their generation, well, it just didn't look as bright as it used to look for their parents. The one on top today could be dead and gone tomorrow, so what they did was enjoy themselves. They spent their time partying. And our young man, he joined them because he was one of them. And at one of these parties, he realized something about himself, something that he hadn't realized before. He'd always been good with language. But now he found out that he could actually write poetry. And this had all started at one of these parties when on the spur of the moment he'd come up with a couple of funny lines about one of the other students with a big nose and large ears and ridiculing them, burning them. And well, he got a big response. Everybody laughed. And he wanted more. And he gave them more. And before he knew it, he'd become something of a minor celebrity at these parties. And people would tell each other, well, just go there because he'll be there, and probably come up with some funny lines. So at one of these parties, a couple of weeks later, that's where it happened. While he was performing again, everybody's listening to him, paying attention to him, he suddenly noticed that a woman walked into the room. And she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. And she walked up to them, joined the crowd, and listened to what he had to say. But well, just looking at her, he forgot his lines, he fumbled his words, and well, he couldn't concentrate because he was head over heels in love with her. And I think we shouldn't blame him for that, because she actually was the most beautiful woman in the city. She was something of a celebrity herself. She was rich, she was a little older, and she was married to one of the former presidents. And she loved to spend her time with young men at parties that lasted till the sun rose again. And it actually worked out between them. The miracle happened. She seemed to like him almost as much as he loved her. And they started this romance, this wild, passionate romance. And it was heaven on earth for him. But it didn't really last a long time, because after a couple of weeks, he started to pick up some signs. And people started to talk to him, started to warn him about her. And he found out that she actually did have other boyfriends. And some of them were some of his best friends. And he was mad. He was angry. His world just crashed. His dreams crashed. And he started to write poetry, poems about her, hateful poetry. And he attacked her and ridiculed her. And somewhere in those days, he made a huge discovery. And it still stands today as one of the major discoveries in the field of love. And he wrote a poem about it. The shortest poem he ever wrote, just 2 lines. I hate you, and I love you. You want to know why I do that? I don't know myself. I just know that it happens, and that it's tearing me apart. Hate and love. He discovered that love was of the body and of the mind. And he discovered within himself that he could still lust for her. He wanted to make love to her every second of the day. That hadn't changed. But at the same time, he wanted to strangle her, just bash her head in because of what she'd done. She cheated on him. She humiliated him. But these two emotions existed side by side, hate and love. That was his discovery. But the world turned, and time went on, and they all went their separate ways, and eventually the war ended, and there was peace. Peace for all time. And the students went back to university. They started to pay attention again, and started to worry about diplomas, started to hope for steady jobs, marriage, mortgage, children, ambitions. And there was no time for partying, and nobody wanted to talk about love and what it was really like. And our poet, our young man, was soon forgotten. His name was Gaius Valerius Catullus. He was born in Verona, and he went to university in a big city of Rome, somewhere in the first half of the first century before Christ. He was one of the last of the free republic of the Romans. Now, what this story shows is that it's always very important to know context. Because if it weren't for these details, this story could have taken place anywhere, anytime. Somewhere in America in the 1960s, some American university campus, between some beatnik poet and some Republican senator's wife. But Catullus' discovery still stands today. Perfect love is of the mind and of the body, and the lack of the one does not exclude the existence of the other. Always keep in mind that history is like a never-ending story, and whoever wrote its script made sure that everything connects to everything else. See you next time on the Cicero Company channel.